Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to the Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. And it brings me great pleasure to introduce to you yet again, Jessica J. Lockhart. She is visiting us with part 2, a continuation from our conversation on humanology. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Inolia. You can't tell how happy and thrilled I am here, but I can. This is wonderful. Thank you for having me back.
I'm excited to have you back. And we were talking this morning and we were expressing how we were doing, what was going on, and everything. And I want to talk about pain. I want to talk about the fact that pain comes in many forms: physical, emotional, relationship, circumstance. And in that pain, how we respond to it, how it shapes our lives, how we live with it when we have to, really plays a fundamental role in navigating through life. When I do my work and I talk to my clients, I talk about lifting the veil of pain, lifting the veil of trauma, because when it's shaped our lives and has integrated so fully with us on a daily basis, there's got to be a moment in time when we can just lift the veil of it for a moment of seeing life without pain, seeing life and navigating life, and what it would be like to be absent of pain. And some who don't realize it are really fortunate to be able to do that, and some not so. And I know that I'm talking about something that you are very familiar with. So I'm going to turn it over to you for your perspective.
Well, thank you for that question, Inolia, because it is true. Pain's always been a great part of my life. And as you mentioned, there's many different types of pain, and I think I suffered quite a few of them. So let me first start telling you why I've always been in so much pain. The first thing I can share is that when I was in my late teens, maybe my early 20s, I had my first car accident. And it was a silly accident. I just got into a taxi. The taxi took off without me having my seatbelt on, and it hit another car right away. And because I wasn't properly seated, I ended up having 3 slip discs in my back. Well, as a consequence of that, I was given medication for the pain. I had sciatica, I had lumbago, but the medication acted weirdly in me and caused a lot of side effects. Some medication didn't work at all, and the pain was always there, constantly there, because they couldn't seem to manage it. Doctors were going crazy trying to manage it. To cut a very long story short, we discovered that as my father and my brother before me, and my younger brother as well, and now my son, we seem to have a certain enzyme, hepatic enzyme, that doesn't allow us to properly metabolize certain products or certain drugs. So our body reacts in weird ways. Well, to top things up, as I was recovering from that first car accident, I had a second one. And it was a head-on. An idiot just got on my lane, lost control because he got nervous and just hit me on. Well, as you can imagine, my back that hadn't fully recovered went to pieces, and I was told I would never walk again. The pain then was constant. For at least 7 years in a row, every single day, I was in acute, constant pain in both my legs and my back, and no medication would work. In fact, the medication gave me other complex reactions that were not very nice. So for day after day after day, I laid in bed, looking at the ceiling because I wasn't even allowed to have a pillow under my head because my back was so hurt, bearing the pain the best way I could. And I remember that the pain became my life. there was nothing but pain. Every move caused pain. Everything I tried to do, eat, go to the bathroom, everything caused pain. I would be in my sleep and I would move and I would wake up because of the pain. So for that long, I tried to get up from bed, and I don't know, 50, 60% of the times, I would just crumble down again onto the floor, not being able to hold myself straight. That's why doctors told me that I would never walk again. The pain was constant. I went from doctor to doctor, trying to find the solution, because traditional medicine had already told me that there was none. And I have to say, Nenolia, that I was seen by the best doctors in the world because I was a medical simultaneous interpreter. So I knew every doctor. I had translated all the operations they wanted to do on my back. I had some operations, they didn't work. So the other ones that they wanted to do, I had translated them from the operating theater. So I knew what they had in mind, and even they themselves said, it's not going to work. So I turned to other kinds of help. I looked for energy healers. I looked for everything and anything I could to try and diminish the pain. Nothing worked until one day, the mother of a friend of mine came to visit me after one of my stays in the hospital. And she said, you know what? You have an appointment with Dr. X. Oh, I'll say his name, Dr. Alberto Modrego in Pamplona, Spain, on such a day. I said, no, I'm not going. Oh, yes, you are. No, I'm not going. I don't want to go see any more doctors. I don't want to try anything else. Because every time I go, I hurt even more. And they don't know how to do anything to fix me. So no, I'm not going. You owe me, she said. And because she was the mother of my best friend who had passed away, I said, okay, I owe you. So I went. And I remember I went to talk to this doctor, and he went through my never-ending case history. And then he asked me to lay down in bed. By then, I have to say, I was twisted frontwards, and my left leg was completely bent upwards. And I walked like the hunchback of Notre Dame. I couldn't walk any other way. So this doctor made me lay down in his bed. He started checking everything. Yes, he heard me. But after 2-3 hours, he made me sit down again, and he said, you know what? They're right. You have all these lesions in your back, in your legs, everywhere, in your neck. And I think there's something they've overseen. I raised my eyebrow and I said, really? I said, yeah, I think that your hip bone is displaced, slightly displaced. And it's what's causing the sciatica and the lumbago, not the slip discs. I was so fed up that I was really rude to poor Alberto Modrego. And I said, yeah, and you're the only one who sees that, right? I've been seen by the best doctors. He was very patient and very nice. He understood that I was in so much pain. And he said, well, you know what? It's up to you. I think I can fix this. I think I can remove at least part of the pain. When I heard that, I thought, well, there's nothing else I can do. Nobody else has ever given me any hope. So what is there to lose? That I end up in the wheelchair faster than I thought? Well, so I said, okay, I'll trust you. So as an osteopath or chiropractic that he was, he twisted my bones. Yes, I screamed in pain. But then he said, okay, can you try and stand up? And for the first time in many years, I stood up straight. I was in pain, so I couldn't gauge whether he had really taken part of the pain away at that moment. Then he told me, well, you have to do this and that, you can't take any medication, so we will do it this other way. You have to come back on such a date. You know, I remember walking out of that doctor's office and seeing my husband looking up and seeing me, and how tears started falling down his face. How? He said. What happened? He was crying like a baby. I said, I don't know, and I don't care. So my message here today is, don't lose hope. Help can be, whenever you least expect it. This happened to me twice in Olia. I continued with my life. Then I discovered neurotransmitters. I started working on myself. I discovered that I could use neurotransmitters to help me handle those situations, those moments of pain better. After some time, even Dr. Alberto Modrego told me, well, the pain had gone and it only came and went in certain episodes where maybe I sneezed or maybe somebody bumped into me and then one of the discs slipped. And then he said, well, there's nothing else I can do for you. You will be disabled your whole life. You might end up in a wheelchair, but at least he took that pain away, the sciatica and the acute lumbago. So I continued with my life, and in those bouts of pain, I used what I was learning to work on myself until when I was living in Russia about 10 years ago. I went on a long weekend trip with my children to Turkey. Upon my return, I started having an immense pain in my jaw. It was on my head. I thought I was going crazy. It was so bad. I ended up having to go to the doctors, and I was worried because I couldn't take anything. So it was like, what are they going to do to me? What is going on with me? So they finally diagnosed that I had eaten a nut that had contained a bacteria that had inflamed the nerve in my face near the trigeminal nerve, which is one of the most painful nerves in the whole body.
Wow.
And they said, well, there's one type of medication that we can give you that is for this nerve, the trigeminal nerve, that is really, 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 really strong, because this being the worst pain a person can suffer from, well, this works. We don't know how you're going to react to it. I said, I don't care. I'm in so much pain. Please give it to me. I couldn't even see. Well, it worked. And ever since then, whenever I have an episode of acute, strong pain, I take that. It doesn't completely take the pain away, and it leaves me a little drowsy, but it lowers it enough for me to be able to bear it. So once again, there came some help where I least expected it. So if you're in pain, don't give up. But then this in Olia is only physical pain. Then there's emotional pain. I've had a son who suffered from acute bullying and abuse almost his whole life. Even in school, when I had my second car accident, he was 4 or 5 years old. He was in pre-kindergarten. And I had my car accident right the day after my husband had left for a 2-month training abroad. So I was alone at home with a babysitter. And my son started changing, and I thought it was because I was with all these machines and I couldn't move. I thought it was an affection disorder or an affection situation. Until my husband returned, my son had started behaving weird in the sense that he had started peeing on his pants again, which was unbelievable. He wouldn't eat. He was throwing tantrums, which was completely unlike his being. I realized that he was changing too much. So we consulted a children's psychologist, who immediately ran some tests and determined that my son was being psychologically abused by his classroom teacher. And then I put the dots together. Then I realized the nanny would tell me that my son had come out with his clothes wet. And when asked, my son would say he had peed on his pants during lunchtime and he hadn't been changed for the rest of the day. My mom would say they'd go pick my child from school, and the teacher would criticize my child in front of everyone, him included. So I then realized what was going on. He was being bullied by his classroom teacher. So we immediately tried to speak to the teacher. The teacher was non-respondent. I have to say, there were 6 children in class. Can you imagine? The only
No.
thing she said was, your child is hard to manage. Well, then we took my child to another school and we told the director, well, this happened, please protect our child. They didn't. He was then bullied by his classmates. Of course, by then, my son had already become a victim and acted like a victim. So possible bullies and abusers identified him as a victim right away and went after him. Can you imagine the emotional pain we all suffered from seeing him suffer? It was hard to see your child suffering. I went to the educational authorities. You know what I was told? Well, your child must be doing something. I said, no. Then they said, well, you have to take your child to school by yourself, by car, because if the child goes by bus, we cannot protect the child. I said, what?
That's crazy.
We went to psychologists, we went to psychiatrists, we tried giving my son all kinds of help, but nobody recognized that he was a victim. Nobody helped him become something else but a victim. I learned about this much later in life, too late to help him back then. And by then, the abuse was monumental. His first partner abused him. The second one as well, because he was a victim. So it was really hard. It was really tough. It was another kind of pain, and it was very hard to bear. The conclusion of all this, Leah, is, as I wrote in one of my books, What Story Do You Tell Yourself? That one of the things I learned, and I learned it the hard way, is that if you tell yourself a life of misery and pain, that is what you will live. Your mental confirmation bias will give you that. If you choose to live a drama you will live, and you will find drama everywhere you look. When you live a life of pain and you let pain control you, instead of you controlling your pain, you're lost. You will live a life of horror. You need to realize that those who live a life of pain is because they give their control up. I had given my control up. I did for years and years and years until I decided, no way. I'm not going to let my pain control me anymore. And it was both physical and emotional pain. I said, no way. I am in control. I am in command of my mind, of my emotions, of my thoughts, not the other way around. And I started taking control. Of course, it wasn't immediate. It took a lot of learning, a lot of growing, a lot of understanding. But here I am now, Leah. I can manage the physical pain. I can manage the emotional pain, and even the spiritual pain. And I'm here to encourage everybody to stop letting their pain control their lives, to really decide, I am going to be in command, because that is what I was meant to do. One exception, and I explain it here too. There are some people who want to tell themselves a drama story for their lives. And they say, yes, I have this pain, but I want to continue having it because the reward I get in exchange is so much bigger than I would get otherwise. That was my son's case at certain points in his life. The pain was big, but he thought he was getting so much more attention, care, pity sometimes, that he didn't want to give it up. You need to decide, what story do you want to tell yourself to be able to live the type of life you want to live. And if you don't know Ask for help. That's what Inolia does. That's what I do. That's what 100,000 million people out there already do. But look for somebody who knows, okay? Not somebody who just took a 3-week course somewhere and had some inspiration. No, because pain, all kinds of pain, is hard to deal with. It's nothing easy. You need a whole bunch of tools to deal with it. You need tools to deal with physical pain, but you also need tools to deal with emotional pain, with personal pain, with social pain, with all kinds of pain. Okay, I'll keep quiet now,
It's
because I
okay, it's
spoke
okay,
and
'cause I'm
spoke and
sitting
spoke.
here. There's so much I want to say, and I'm gonna actually take the time to say some of the things that are on my mind, and I'm gonna go through a little bit of response in terms of a few things that you said that's really important that I want to highlight. Okay, first and foremost being that when you said that you needed to be able to take control and take charge, right? Number one thing that I want to say is that so much is going on in my mind, I can't even get it all out at the same time, is that those of us who live the life experiences that we do that brings us stronger on the other side, that have chosen to make it a positive way, produce things like humanology. For me, produce things like empower, achieve, succeed. Because we went through the pain, but we chose not to allow the pain to dictate the rest of our lives. And this is really, really important. So when you sat there and you said there was a certain point where I had to, say, pain, I control me. I control my response. I control my reaction. I control those things. And I'm sitting there thinking in empower, achieve, succeed. What does that mean? I talk about the wheel of the personality. And I talk about what aspect is leading your life and what aspect of that personality, that part, yours could be pain woman, right? Is pain woman serving you? Is pain woman giving you the results that you need? Is pain woman allowing you to enjoy and find the joy in life, no matter how small it might be or how grand it might be? And she wasn't. And then it wasn't until your courageous woman came out that said, okay, you know what, pain woman, you're a part of me, but you don't get to lead my life. Get to the back. Because courageous woman's got to lead my life right now. We don't chop off parts of our personality. We can't change who we are. It's a part of who we are. But that aspect of who we are does not have to lead our lives and will not produce the things that we need in our lives in order to move forward. So therefore, we have to pull on the more courageous part of ourselves to lead. And this is one of the fundamental things that I talk to when I talk to my clients. The other thing that you mentioned also is that, there are parts of you that you had to, I don't know the exact words you use, but that were being given away. And there's a point where we have to take back our power. We have to stop giving our power away, whether it's giving it away to the pain, giving it away to people's perceptions of the pain and the perceptions of us, but taking it back. And what does that mean? How do we take back our power? We have to stop attaching the emotion that justifies the giving it away. And the moment that you pull back that emotion off of that perspective, that judgment, that everyone is defined for you because you're in pain, is the moment that we take back our power. And that when we ask for relief and for the gifts of spirit to come to us, that those gifts come through people. They come through situations and people. And thank God that you had the opportunity to recognize that the gift was coming through the final doctor that you saw, because it comes through the people and not necessarily through, I don't know, some unexpected thing that we're perceiving, and it was that last gift that you got in seeing that last doctor, and you were like already distracted with pain is here, pain's ruling my world, pain is doing this. So you want to ignore that door that opened, because life is nothing but walking on the path. and a door opens and the door closes and the door opens and the door closes. And we walk to the door and we peek in and we go, do we want to go through this door? No, I don't want to go through that door. And we keep walking down the path. We look at another door. Do we peek in? Oh yeah, I want to go through this door. Let me go through and let me come back right round to my path because it served me, it aligned with me, and now I'm continuing on that road. But we forget to open the door because the emotional distress is a distraction. It's a complete distraction away from what we're seeking and what we're asking, and that universe is conspiring to give us what we want, but we have to be aligned enough, we have to be calm enough to recognize that it's giving what we want. And then as far as the son, your son that you talked about, you know, my heart goes with you because nothing hurts more than to see someone you love. And this, you know, I was emphasized to me this past week of not wanting to see someone you love in pain. And, you know, God bless you for at least being attentive and working with him and being there and being present in his life, because that's what we need to do. We raise our children so that they can hopefully stand on their own 2 feet and move through life, you know, but those individuals that sabotage that, you know, I try to do the non-judgment piece, which is that, you know what you put out returns to you tenfold. What you give out returns to you 100-fold. So I'll just leave it at that, because we all have a choice in the type of person that we want to be. We all have a choice, you know? So those are just some of my thoughts. And I want to hand it back to you because I know you want to respond back to me probably.
Yeah, I do. I do. Yeah, because you see, I think the first thing that our listeners need to know is that nothing will happen, nothing at all, until they're aware that there is the possibility of change. People need to be aware that there's this pain in them and that they're living in pain and that there could be another way. So many people are so engulfed and so submerged in their own pain that they can't see anything. They can't be aware of anything that's happening outside their pain. So unless they become aware of that reality, there's nothing we can do. You, me, no one. We cannot tell anyone, look, open your eyes. There's more than your pain, because there's so much embedded in their pain that they will not respond. So it has to be them, like being aware that there could be something else. Once they're aware, there has to be a conscious decision to change. It's something that they have to decide. They have to say, yes, I want to try, like I did with that doctor. Okay, let's give it a try. You need to want to try, because if you don't, nothing will happen either. Right. Third, you need to be open to those doors that you were mentioning. You know, you have to be open to all those doors that open in front of you. Sometimes that emotional distress you mentioned blinds us to the doors that open. And sometimes, in my own metaphor, that what story do you tell yourself? You know, your own story doesn't allow you to see them, because your own story is a drama story, it's a horror movie, whatever, that doesn't allow you to see alternative narrations or narratives. So as long as you're in that movie, you will not see all those doors that open. You know, people often say, when the student's ready, the teacher will show up or will appear. And yes, I agree, that happens, but you have to be ready. And in order to be ready, those 3 things have to happen. So we're here to tell people, you know, there could be another way, hoping to help them in whatever of those 3 stages they may be in. Help them become aware that there could be an alternative narrative. Help them choose that conscious change and take the leap of faith. And also help them see that there are other doors they can take. But it all begins with being aware that it is possible. It can be done.
You are so correct. And I want to, again, I want to emphasize, I call it being stuck in the story. Because what you're doing is you're like a dog chasing the tail. And then what you're doing is you're circling in the story, you're circling in the story, you're consumed by the story, then the story is your life. And then, you know, I always say this saying, dream a beautiful dream or you will be drowned. Okay? If you don't hold a vision for yourself other than your story that you're trapped in, then you might as well just say, put pause on living. This is where I'm going to trap. This is where I'm going to stay. My drama and my trauma and all my pain is my world. And there is no other world. And all I can do is drown in it. And anything that was ever achieved, even with your own story, is the defiance of acceptance of this is it.
Yeah.
Of defying every one of those doctors by basically saying, oh no, I will walk again. By not accepting it. And it's so important because we're talking about the story, you know, and so many of us live the story. We live the story on our sleeve. We live the story in front of us. We live the story, live it over and over and over again and recreate that pain and cry every time we talk about it and everything else, right? Because we won't navigate past the story. And this is, I'm saying this because I just attended a women's conference. And the women's conference was like, tell your story. And what I listened to was 40 women tell all of their pain. And I think I was the only one who just said, you know, I want to inspire, I want to motivate. My story may have been my story, but I'm not going to go to my pain point. I want to go to the point where I've surpassed that story and I've lived and I can live and I can impact people to live. But I don't want to drown. The energy was so heavy. I was like, get me out of here. I don't want to be around these people. I don't. Yeah. I would rather be with you with a flicker of hope, than to drown in the pain of where pain wants to take you. We need that flicker of hope.
Can I add something? Can I add something? Look, I know a lot of people in pain, okay? Fibromyalgia, back pain, emotional pain. And you're right, they tend to surround themselves with people who tell similar stories. Why? Because they reinforce their sadness, their pain, their whatever, you know? If I am in pain and I find somebody who will give me hope, I sometimes reject them because they don't agree with my own story. So we look for people who reinforce what we're saying, who give us, you know, like a pat in the back and say, sorry for you, I know what you're going through, I went through this and that, and they reconfirm and strengthen our belief that, oh, poor me, I'm in pain. And that's okay if that's what you choose. But this is the key. Ask yourself what it is that you choose to live. You have the right to choose. You have the right to choose to live in pain. You have the right to choose to live without pain or handling or managing your pain. I want to tell you a short story, an experience of mine to tell people, I'm not telling you to like block your pain. No, it doesn't exist. No, it doesn't exist and ignore it. No, but I am. But I am. Let me tell you an anecdote. As I said, I'm allergic to many drugs. One of the problems I have is that some drugs either don't work on me or work very little. Anesthetics being one of them. So for example, if I have to go to a doctor and they have to perform some kind of surgery, they have to be on top of me all the time because the anesthesia wears off very quickly. An example of this is when I go to the dentist. The dentist maximum level of anesthesia lasts 4 minutes in me, no more.
Wow.
And I recall having once a big infection on one of my breasts. You know, I had an ingrowth hair that got infected, and they tried to treat it and they couldn't, so they opened the injury and it didn't heal. So they had to installed, they had to put a drainage in without anesthetics. Can you imagine
Oh,
the pain? It was not nice. So
no.
what do I do in those cases? Well, because of my situation, I learned to somehow dissociate my mind and really focus on something outside my pain. Really, because when you focus on the pain, oh, they're doing this and that, it's like there's nothing else but your pain. So I remember telling myself stories and focusing on something in the utmost detail, so I would be thinking about something else while the procedure was happening. Did that take the pain away? No,
No.
but it helped me bear it at that moment. So what I'm telling you with this is, in the worst case scenario, where there's nothing you can do to lower your pain, you can use your brain to kind of put it on one side and do something else. When I tried doing this with my back pain, yes, the pain is there, but I will continue living my life. I will continue writing books. I will continue talking to people, even if the pain is there. There came a moment in which, if I got engaged enough in what I was doing, I forgot about the pain. Ladies and gentlemen, this happens. The brain is so mighty, so powerful, that no matter what your pain or your ache is, it can help you. Am I telling you that by focusing on other things like that, you will be healed? No, but it might give you the split moment you need to do something else, to look for that extra help, to maybe try some other method, to maybe ask for help, so you can step out of your pain for a moment. And once you step out of the pain for one moment and you realize that you can manage it, that you're the boss, you started winning the battle.
There you
So
go.
that's what I wanted to say.
You're absolutely right, because it brings me back to a point in my life when I was diagnosed with, I had a lymph node that had enlarged in my neck, size of a golf ball. And, the neurologist, neurosurgeon, basically, oh, I can operate, right? Spent 5 minutes with me. I ended up going to a seventh generation acupuncturist who was a medical doctor, also an MD, but seventh generation acupuncturist. And what she shared with me when she did her diagnosis after a 25-page intake sheet and spending 2 hours with getting my history. All right. And then meeting her the next time she saw me to make her diagnosis and prognosis instead of doing it in 5 minutes like the neurosurgeon did. Right. Is that my whole left side was shutting down. The lymphatic system was swelling on my whole left side, and I was in constant pain. And this, I don't even profess to be what you deal with, but I understand what you're saying about pain, being in constant pain. I was in pain when I walked, I was in pain when I sleep, I was in pain. And, I remember it being 9 months before I was supposed to take my first journey ever to Africa. And the way that I had designed to go to Africa is I was going to do a 100-mile walk across Africa, the East and West Savo parks of Kenya. And so I told her, okay, I'm in pain and whatnot. You fix this by the time I go to Africa, because I'm going to be walking 100 miles. And she goes, oh, no, you're not. And I said, oh, yes, I am. And she's like, oh, no, you're not. You don't understand how serious this is. You're in pain, and this is not going to be fixed. I said, you tell me what to do. I will do it. I'm going on that walk. And I said, I'll make a deal with you. A month before the walk, we will have this conversation again, because I'm not canceling. And if you say that I'm not physically fit to make it that 100 miles, then I will cancel my trip. But if you say that I'm physically fit enough, I'm going. I'm going. And I want you to know that when she told me it was agreed, and I had to see her twice a week, every week for the 8-9 months leading up to that trip. And what did I do? There was food in my food. I walked. I walked in pain. I didn't care what kind of pain I was having, because I had to practice walking. So I walked in pain. I hobbled, I moved, I learned how to walk in pain faster. I just learned, my body learned how to walk. And it wasn't a matter of ignoring the pain. It was a matter of saying, okay, if you're going to be present I'm still going to move. I'm still going to exercise. My world is not going to stop because you choose to be present in my life. And then, you know, outside of my adrenals, kidney, and liver, and strengthening those. And then eventually it was after about 2.5, 3 months, the pain started to subside little by little by little by little until it wasn't present. And then, you know, that 8-month mark, right before, a month before the trip, and I sat down with that doctor. She sat me down, she said, sit down, because I was like, okay, can I go on this trip? And she said, okay, if anybody else would have told me, you know, that I would be having this conversation with you, I would be calling them a liar. But I'm going to tell you, not only can you go on your trip, but go have a great time. I'll see you when you get back and we'll finish it because you're at like 75%, you know? But the thing about it is that if I had just accepted it, again, the acceptance of the story, she told me, no, I'm not. And God bless her, she saved my life. She worked with me and saved my life, but she told me to accept the story, and I wouldn't accept the story. I would not accept the story of, oh, I can't go, I'll save it, I'll push it back another year. No, I'm going. I'm going, good, bad, indifferent, pain and no pain, I'm going. And you know what? I'll just learn how to walk with the pain, but I'm going.
You know, yeah, this leads me to something else that I want to say, and I want to emphasize it, okay? Which is, why are you in pain? It's very important to look for the root cause.
Yes.
Sometimes, well, in my case, it was easy. I had accidents. I had a mechanical problem. My son is in pain because he had what he had. But sometimes we're in pain and we've either forgotten the real cause or we are not really aware of what caused it. So it's really important to work with someone who can help us look for the root cause, because if you start working on your pain, like on the symptoms of your pain without fully understanding where they come from, you won't be able to really heal that. You will be able to manage the pain, but the pain will always be there. It's important to try and find the root cause. I have worked.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's one very, very short example, okay? I have worked with quite a few victims of childhood abuse, sexual abuse, with victims. And some of them didn't even remember the abuse. But they came to realize they'd been abused through different routes. Even in some sessions with me that we were working on something completely different, it suddenly their memories started popping up. And it was really scary. But once I discovered, God, has this happened to me? They started working on that and they completely changed their life story. And they started healing, really, truly healing. Because a lot of people ask me, is it possible to heal after something so dreadful? I say, yes, it is. But you have to be willing and you have to be brave. And you have to work with someone who knows how to help you heal yourself. Right. And those three things are hard to come across.
Right. You know what? I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it right there. What you're saying is so important and so valid. And we have to remember that physical pain is an indication that the body is not aligned or imbalanced or in balance. And that we need to understand the root cause of what that imbalance is, not the symptom. The pain is an indication of that body not being in balance, but to deep dive into the root cause, because many times we just want to fix the symptom, and if the symptom goes away, the pain goes away. But let me tell you, emotional, physical, spiritual, it's all one. It's all one. Okay. And we really need to look at the auspices of all three areas to satisfy that we truly have the root cause of what's taking place within us.
Fully agree with you, Enolia, totally. Mm-hmm.
We're coming up on an hour. Jessica, oh my goodness. Another dynamic, phenomenal conversation with you. You bring so much to the table. I hope those who have listened to this episode really, really glean the messages that both of us are portraying, but especially with your story. And I so appreciate it. Would you like to share any last words with the audience? Anything else that you you feel or deem really important?
Yes, something that a lot of people forget, which is even if the pain was externally caused, that is, somebody hurt you or somebody did something to you, don't forget that the power to heal is not theirs, it's yours. They're not the ones who have to heal you. You're the one who has to heal yourself. And a lot of people forget that.
Thank you so, so much.
Thank
Wow.
you, India, for having me here. Really, thank you.
Another powerful conversation and another powerful moment with you, Jessica J. Lockhart. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on The Infinite Way. If you like what you heard and you know that this can help somebody, please share this episode. Please like us. Please subscribe to us. And I want to thank you again, Jessica Lockhart, for sharing your story, your wisdom with us. What a pleasure always it is to have you here. My name is Dr. Enolia Foti. Thank you for being and listening to the Infinite Way podcast, where spirituality meets humanity. Take care, everyone.